So today in the garage, we're gonna build us some benches. So today I'm going to show you how I built these benches. As you can see, this is the deck on the new house that we just built, and we specifically had the deck built without any railings because I don't like just plain old railings. I like something a little more interesting. So I did this at my old house where we had some benches built into it instead of railings. It's attached to the deck, some nice metal fabricated framing, so a little bit of welding for the project. And as you can see, it turned out really well. So let's jump back in time and see how we built it. All right, let's get started on our benches. First thing I want to do is I want to get some measurements, come up with something that's comfortable. So I've got this chair that's just one of our patio chairs that I find pretty comfortable. I think it's about the right size for what we want to do. So I'm going to measure the angle of the back and take some measurements for lengths, and then we can start cutting some steel. So I've got the first few parts of the bench supports all cut and ready to go. So what I've got here is what's going to be the back that's going to be angled up. That'll have the seat part coming out around here, and it'll have a couple of decking boards screwed along here for the backrest. And down here we have the portion that's going to go down on the side of the deck that it'll get some holes drilled through it, and this will get lag bolted to the structure of the deck for support. So I've got 5 of these, and I measured them out at about a 25-degree angle, so each one is cut at 12.5 degrees, so together we should get about 25. But more important than the exact angle is that all of them are the same. So I'm finally getting a chance to make use of my welding table. If you didn't see, I shot a video on putting this table together a couple weeks ago. I'll put a link to that in the video for those of you who haven't seen it that are interested. But the nice thing about this table is it's got the holes drilled into it for some clamps and fixturing. So what I'm doing is I've taken a couple pieces of scraps and clamped and bolted those down to the table. So now I can do all 5 of these, and while it doesn't necessarily matter that they're exactly 25 degrees, what does matter is they all need to be the same. So if I can line them up with these pieces that are bolted and clamped to the table, all of them should come out the same, and I can clamp these down so they don't shift while they're welding, and hopefully they come out all exact. So I'm getting ready to cut the supports that's going to actually hold up the seat part of the bench. And one thing that's a good little tip with these saws is it's really hard to get any sort of an accurate cut with the gauge on these. So what I find works really well is I have a compound miter saw for woodworking that actually is very good at cutting relatively good angles. So what I do is I take just a scrap piece of wood, cut the angle I want, and then I can line that up in the metal chop cutoff saw, and I can actually get a pretty good angle on it. So just a quick little tip, and the next tip for myself is I really need to build a chop saw station because I hate doing this on the floor. Okay, so I've got the seat parts all cut to size and cleaned up the ends with the grinder. And so now I'm getting ready to weld those up. So once again, I really do like this table. This really has made things a lot easier. I've taken some scrap pieces and some bolts and created a little bit of a temporary fixture. So what I can do is I've got the parts I did earlier, the main supports. I've got a couple pieces that it butts up against this, and then I've got a stop block so I know they're all the same length, and then I can put a clamp on that to hold it in place. And now I've got another couple of blocks here for the seat part, and let's make sure we get this the right direction. And so now I know, once again, all of them are going to be the same distance along the support. I know they're all going to be the same angle. I don't have to spend lots of time measuring for each one, and it should hold them in place nicely while I weld them. Okay, the welding portion is complete, and I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. Some of my welds are looking pretty good, some of them not so much. If you watch, there's another guy here on YouTube for a channel called Welding Tips and Tricks, and he tends to use the term, looks like a dog's butt, and when welds don't look very good, some of mine are like that. Still working on it, but I'm pretty happy with it. Most of the welds look pretty good, and most importantly, it should be strong. So yeah, and even more important than that, they all are lined up the same. I stacked them all up next to each other so I could verify that they're all the same length, all the same angle, so I don't think I'm going to have any trouble lining things up. So now the next thing I need to do is drill some holes down in the portion that bolts to the side of the deck. I'm going to drill at least 2 holes. I might go for 3 for some big lag bolts that are going to go into the framing of the deck. And then along the seat, what I'm going to have is, see if I can hold this up so you can see, a couple pieces of decking running along all the pieces there, and there'll be a carriage bolt in the center of each one of those, so I've got to drill holes for that. And there'll be a couple more along the back, and the same thing, there'll be a carriage bolt right in the center of those. So I'm getting ready to drill these here, and I don't like to measure more than once if I don't have to. So I'm going to make a little jig. I've got just a scrap piece of plywood, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to butt it up there. I'm going to drill a small hole in the plywood, and then I can use that for the pilot holes so that I can quick and easy. I measure once for the piece of plywood, and then I don't have to measure for any of the others. I know they're all going to line up. So I'm going to do that, and then weather's not too good today, so I don't know that I'll be bolting it to the deck today, but hopefully we'll get to that tomorrow. So I've got them all drilled out to 1/8 inch with as the pilot hole. Now I'm going to 1/4 inch and then finally to 5/16. So it's 6 holes on 5 different pieces, and it's a lot of drilling, kind of tiring me out, but luckily got extra batteries. Okay, all the holes are drilled, and I think it's about ready to go. I just need to clean things up a little bit, shoot a little paint on it, and then I can bolt it onto the deck. But it's getting late in the day. I'm long past my dinner time, and I think I'm due for a cold beer, so I think the rest of this is going to happen tomorrow. So of course, I thought I'd get back to this last weekend, and here we are a week later. As usual, the projects got in the way. I was doing some landscaping stuff that took a little longer than I thought. But it worked out pretty well because over the week I realized I still needed to clean things up and paint them. So over the week, I took a couple evenings and worked on it just a tiny bit. I hit it all with a flap wheel grinder and cleaned all the mill scale off. It's hot rolled steel, so it's got a lot of mill scale on it. Cleaned that up, and then used what's my favorite paint for something like this, which is spray-on truck bed liner, which I definitely would never use it as an actual truck bed liner, but it works really nicely for stuff like this. I find it holds up pretty well. It gives us a nice matte finish, and seems to survived the weather pretty well. So I'm pretty happy with how things turned out. So I think I'm ready to go bolt them on, and we'll get this project finished up today. One down. Ow, these get hot. These get...
have black metal in the hot sun? Yep.
Ah, yeah. Whew. Oh yeah, I think this is going to be comfortable. Yeah. Well, I think it's all done except for the testing, having a cold beer on it, and this may look like I'm just slacking off, but I'm actually testing. And I got to say it's doing pretty well. It's got a little bit of a spring to it. I think I might add a little bit of a reinforcement, a little diagonal on the back, just because when there's multiple people sitting on it, I think it might. It's definitely not going to break, but it might shake a little bit. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Now it's not the end of the project, it's the end of these particular benches, but eventually in a few weeks I'll get to the rest of the railing. We didn't want benches all the way around the deck, but we've got an idea for some other interesting things to incorporate in. Still not, boring railing, certainly not doing that, but we'll do something interesting for the rest of it, but that'll be in a few weeks. In the meantime, I'll probably be a couple weeks before the next video, because I've got a trip planned, and I'm picking up yet another project that's kind of a special one, but more about that in the next video. And I'm definitely going to get started on the Datsun 510 project, and hopefully other interesting stuff. So if you want to be notified when those videos hit, definitely click the subscribe button, and you'll be notified when the new videos are. But probably every, in a couple weeks for the next one, and I'm trying to get on to a once a week for every video, but we'll see. Definitely every other week if I don't get to that. So in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy my new bench on our lovely new deck, and hopefully soon we'll have a yard. The house is still a work in progress, or the house is done, but the landscaping's still a work in progress. But so far I'm pretty happy with how things are turning out.